Hi, this is Chris from Clever Unicorn Games and the Unicorn Collective, back with another interview. Today I have Juma Al-Joujou with me, creator of Clans of Caledonia, one of my favorite sort of resource management and whiskey making games. How are you doing today, Juma?
I'm doing very good, and you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's warm. So warm. It's like the hottest summer ever right now.
It is. I mean, I just put a shirt for this interview. I'm usually working half naked in my home office.
What is it that you like to do with your spare time when you're not making or designing games? What do you get out and do for fun?
Lots of sports usually. I'm really into yoga and acro yoga. It's like acrobatic yoga. And I also go bouldering regularly with my daughter also. Bouldering is like climbing without rope.
That sounds dangerous.
It is not as dangerous as it sounds.
Is it is it when you say boulder, is it like just large rocks? You climb up like large rocks.
Well, in Berlin, we don't have any large rocks, so I just go to boulder halls, and there you have like, yeah, walls with artificial grips, and yeah.
Oh yeah,
Then
I've
you have
seen
a
those. Yeah.
very soft, then you have a very soft mat at the bottom, so if you fall, it's not so dangerous.
And is that how you twisted your ankle recently? Is that how you did it?
No, I twisted my ankle when I was dancing in the park. I also like to dance, and the park wasn't even the ground, so I twisted my.
So dancing in the park's another spare time thing.
Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite board game? And I know this is hard for most people, but is there one that people, if somebody says, "Do you want to play this?" you'll go, "Yes," every time.
That's Avalon Resistance.
Really?
Yes.
People know my feelings on Resistance. It's probably my most disliked game, but I understand why people like Resistance. I've not played Avalon yet, but I can't see it being a huge amount different. What is it that you like about it?
I like about it that there's always a lot of emotion involved. Um, and it mimics one aspect of real life so well, namely lying. Every person lies every day, and we're all trying to detect other people's lies. And in this game, you're basically doing exactly that. And and that's kind of interesting because I mean, it's also reminds us how hard it sometimes is to detect other people's lies. And in some way, it kind of makes me paranoid because like when I realized like someone, I was so sure they were good, but then they were evil and they lied to me successfully. That reminds me that in real life, I may also suck at detecting lies.
Yep.
So I think that's a good warning.
Yeah, that's that is the exact reason I don't like it. And that's it because
Yeah.
I can't I find it very hard to lie and I hate doing it. You know, I hate lying. But what's worse is when you realize that those friends that you've known for so long are really good liars and you didn't know it. It's like
Yeah.
oh no, how did I not know this? And that's kind of I think what put me off when I played. There's a bunch of people that I knew quite well and didn't know what they would steep to win a game.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be hard.
Oh no, but that's still a good answer though. I mean, your explanation of it is good. Yeah. What is it that inspires you to create games? What is it that makes you want to create games?
Um, I think I really enjoy the process of making games. I do have a feeling for numbers. I find numbers aesthetic, and if I make a game that is elegant and well balanced, then I feel like an artist who has completed his masterpiece, and I feel like a lot of intrinsic joy and fulfillment. So I would say the process itself is like the biggest driver for me personally. Yeah.
And when coming up with a game, so you've got the idea in your head, where do you go to first from the idea? So what is the first thing you do?
Mm, I usually think about a first idea for quite a while because like I am not that good at handcrafting, and making prototypes is the least favorable part of my job. I don't really like to create prototypes, so I'm not a someone who likes. I'm more like a digital guy and a mind guy. So I'm good with my mind, but I don't like physical stuff. So I'm not so good at actually creating the prototype, the graphics, and everything, printing it out. Ideally, at some point, I would outsource that and let someone else do part of the job. That would probably save me. So usually I think a lot about. Um, I try to come from a theme more than from a mechanic, and I'm wondering, like, I'm also researching about the theme, like what about the history of the theme and so on, and then I have usually a few core mechanisms that I have in mind. Then I think a lot about these mechanisms, and um, often I can quite well imagine if this would work or not, just in my mind. I basically, in my mind, I imagine if this would be now put in place in a game, would this work or not? And I do have a feeling that my intuition and my imagination is strong enough to make a good call, because yeah, that way I save a lot of time like iterating, because I can actually iterate a bit in my head. And then I usually like write down the all the ideas and the mechanisms in an Excel sheet. I love Excel. And yeah, so that's how I start. And at some point I make a prototype, but it's usually further down.
Yeah, my partner Dan, he does the spreadsheet stuff. Like when we're working on a game, he's the guy that says, "Yeah, we need to put this in a spreadsheet." And I'm the guy going, "Really?" Because in my head it all comes out as pictures and things, so it doesn't really collate to a spreadsheet. But then he manages to put it into a spreadsheet that, works things out and, adds numbers, has the algorithms built into it. And I find it amazing. But yeah, from my point of view, they are witchcraft.
Yeah, for me, Excel is just like I love it.
So, in taking a game from your head all the way out to backers, has there been a hurdle that you've hit which has stopped you dead in your tracks? So you've gone, I don't know where I'm going to go from here. And then how did you overcome that hurdle? And that can be in the design or the production or any part of it.
Well, with Clans, for instance, like there was like I had a version that was quite decent. I got decent feedback for it, but I somehow thought it's only decent but not very good, and I didn't have an idea how to make it significantly better. So I basically didn't touch it for 9 months. And after 9 months, I had like the breakthrough idea how to improve it, and then I started working on it again, and then it all went better. So sometimes just taking a break might help. Um, and then when it came to really like the Kickstarter stuff, fulfillment, and many of these questions, like I, I basically was a newbie, and so I basically asked a lot of questions to people who know more about it than me, and many people are very helpful in the community. So that worked really well. And I think nowadays, like through the internet, you don't need as much experience as you might have needed like 20 years ago. If you put in the extra hours, it's more about dedication and passion, and put in the energy and the extra effort that might be needed, and then you can go a long way.
Yep, no, agree 100% with the whole community thing now. I mean, the community's become at the point where most people, especially other designers now, like this, like with me doing these videos, designers are usually, happy to jump on board and help other designers. It's just the way that the community is with this, and it's probably not like that in many other industries. It just seems to be the board game industry is just incredibly supportive of each other, which is brilliant. Because yeah, for when we started, it was the same. We could just go online and you can go and read countless blogs telling you how to do different things. As long as you do the research, it's there.
Yeah, I'm actually wondering if this trait of help and support among people who are technically competitors is intrinsic to this demographic of people, or if it kind of grew. And I wouldn't be surprised because like gamers are by nature rather competitive people. I mean, many gamers are competitive. Um, so I could actually imagine that a few lighthouse figures like James Matthew and Stonemeyer Games, Jamie Stegmaier, that they basically had a great influence on this rather cooperative environment in in the whole industry rather than competitive environment. Yeah, but I don't know for sure, of course.
Yeah, those people certainly help. It's them putting the information out there really helped. But I think as well, it is just the fact that gamers, while competitive, we're all pretty intelligent. It doesn't tend to be, it tends to be smart people that tend to play games most of the time. And I think they are always kind of critical and logical thinkers as well. So they know they're realists. So they know how things need to work. I think majority of them know that, we need to help each other as a race. And that kind of comes into this whole industry where helping each other, because we're not really competitors, if you know. There's room out there for all of the good games. There's room there because people, it's not one of those things where you buy a game, you play that game, you love that game, you stick to that game for the rest of your life. That's not how it works. Everybody's always seeking out the new good games, which means there's always room for more games. So I don't think we're as competitive as some industries, and I think that helps a little bit as well. And
Yeah,
with it,
what might also help is like due to Kickstarter, the industry is also growing. So the pie is growing. So we don't have the feeling that when you gain more, you have stolen some piece of the cake from me, but we may have simply made the cake bigger.
yeah, no, it's a good industry to be in right now. Unfortunately, it's probably not the best paid industry for people to get into, but it's a rewarding industry in other ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I always compare it to like musicians and artists. Like many people are intrinsically motivated to be involved with games. And when you have that, you don't need as much extrinsic motivation. And that usually means like people are maybe there are more people in the gaming industry than the gaming industry would absolutely need, which kind of results in salaries being lower than average. And people also willing to accept lower than average salaries. So
So, have you ever played a game, and you don't need to give the title of it, but have you ever played a game that you really didn't like, and what was the mechanic or the theme that put you off that game?
it's easy to think of that game. Um, it's a game that is rather divisive. Some people love it, many people hate it, but it's kind of still popular, or like let's say it's well known. And I mean, it's supposed to be very thematic, and I really, really hated the experience so much because, first of all, the rules are really complex and clunky, and the game takes ages to play. And then I also feel like I hardly have any decisions because, like, the luck factor was so high. So I had the feeling the game was playing me. I had hardly ever any control. It took ages. It was a horrible experience. I will never play this game again.
So it was the yes, because luck for me plays a big part in making me not like a game. So dice, I don't like dice. I like dice when they're used in unique ways. Like I'm going to try and pronounce
Dice collecting.
Tio Tau Tican. I can never pronounce it properly.
Yeah.
But games like that where they use the dice as markers rather than rolling them, I like that. But when it comes to dice deciding important factors in whether you win or lose a part of a game, I don't like that because it takes all of the skill out of it.
I've become a bit more tolerant towards luck and dice. For instance, I like ganz schön clever. That's very clever, I think is the English name of it. You know it?
What's it called?
I think the German title is ganz schön clever, and the English one is, I think, that's very clever or something like this.
I'm just
That's
looking it
very
up.
clever.
I'm just looking at.
By it's by Vash, Wolfgang Vash. I
So
think
Gan, it's called Ganz schon clever, and is that the German?
yeah,
Ah, yes, I've got. That's pretty clever. Yeah, yeah, I see it here. I've never played. I've never heard of it until now, but I'm interested now because that's a very, very colourful box.
yeah. Yeah, in this game it's a roll and write game, and I mean, of course, you have luck, but it's also quite strategic and it doesn't take so long. So in that case, I'm fine. I mean, if a game takes 30 minutes, bit of luck can actually add spice, but not in a game that takes 5 hours.
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah, if it's a game that's a quick party game or it's just a 20 or 30-minute game, yeah, then it's no issue because the game's over shortly and you can't get too annoyed at it. It's when it's like you're 2 hours in and there's a battle that depends on a roll of two dice and there's another hour after that of the game, but those two dice are going to dictate whether you win or lose the game. That's the kind of thing that puts me off.
Yeah.
So, why is it that you make games? So, what is it that drives you? I mean, I think we spoke about this beforehand, but what is it that makes you want to produce games for people?
Yeah, I think it's really mostly that I really enjoy it and I think I'm good at it. I also like not only the design process, but also the market aspect and thinking, okay, who is the target group? Would this actually work? And so I also enjoy the entrepreneurial aspect of publishing a game. Um, yeah, I don't think it's like I'm saving the world through making games. So I don't think it's like the most idealistic um, job. In fact, actually, when I started my company, I mean, it's called Karma Games, like good karma. I'm a slightly Buddhist influenced, and I was very idealistic in the beginning. In the beginning, I was focusing on educational games or games that have a certain educational orientation, so to speak. And but I noticed very quickly that this does not work. And one game that I successfully crowdfunded through a German crowdfunding platform, it's about corporate social responsibility. So it's about sustainability in the corporate context. Um, it got actually quite good reviews by Tom Basel, for instance, but it still didn't sell so well. And so one learning from myself was that educational games don't sell. And it doesn't really matter if the game itself is good or not. I mean, certain topics and themes are just a hard sell. So that's why I kind of pivoted at some point because I realized if I want to make a living out of this, I need to focus more on, let's say, mainstream topics. Um, I can also explain my exact thought process because, like, I studied business and economics amongst other stuff, so I'm also always have the market in mind, and I knew that sustainability is a mega trend. It's something that is growing. More and more people are adopting sustainable values, are adjusting their lifestyle to a healthy and sustainable lifestyle, have more green values and so on. And at the same time, through the rise of mobile gaming and through the rise of internet, more and more people became gamers because there was also a big influx of casual games. So basically, more people became gamers. And then my thinking, my a bit stupid and overly simplified thinking, was like, if those two segments are growing, then the overlap of those two segments should be growing as well, right? Like people who are into gaming and into sustainability. So I am focusing on games in the setting of sustainability. So that was my thinking.
Yeah, that's good.
But but I couldn't have been wronger because in the end, I realized that many people who are into sustainability and who are into gaming, when they play games, they actually don't want to play something that is in the setting of sustainability because they would rather want to escape reality and still be beat aliens or slaughter zombies or be in a middle age or in the Caribbean Sea or whatever. So that's why my assumptions were completely wrong, and that's why I made the pivot. And I told myself, like, if I really want to be idealistic, I can just try to make a lot of money through mainstream games and donate whatever money is left over to charities. This way, I may actually create more impact for society as a whole, rather than like if I focus on educational games that are hardly sold.
What is it? I saw a post, I think it was on your social media, where you were working on a game based on the stock market in Berlin. Is that the next big thing?
The stock market in Berlin, yeah, yeah, I'm actually working on on a game about the stock market. It's not based in Berlin. I would probably put it in the Caledonian setting again, like stock market in Scotland in the 19th century.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see what you mean, though. That is kind of, what would they have had to do? Having stocks in farms and whiskey production. Yeah, that will be interesting. Is there
Yeah,
anything else you're working on right now, or?
it's a game I was submitted by a game designer, or I rather found the game in board game designer convention. And the last months I've worked intensively with the designer to improve the game. And yeah, the game is pretty far. It's quite mature already. It works really well. Fine tuning things and also variable player powers, but like I'd say the game now is like 100%.
So, what would be one piece of advice that you would give a new designer with an idea? So, a designer has an idea in the head and they think, "Can I do this? Can I make a game?" What would be your biggest piece of advice to that person?
Mm, start doing it. Done is better than perfect. And make your research. I mean, obviously, sometimes people design games who have very little experience in games. Like, if you only know Risk and Monopoly, there is a very low chance that you're making a very good game. That's the crucial thing is to know a lot of games, played a lot of. Yeah, so if you haven't done that, I always suggest like go through Board Game Geek Top 100 and try to play at least 50 of them, and then you can start designing games.
That is a really good piece of advice. Yeah, the Board Game Geek Top 100. There's a few on there that I probably wouldn't agree with, but most of them are cracking games. I think I've played about 72 of them now, and I don't think that
Yeah,
there's any I really dislike.
that's a point. I mean, of course, I also don't like all games in the top 100, but in the end, there's a lot of personal taste involved. But it still helps to play those games because those games are successful. And in some of those games, I didn't like in the first play, but then I put in a second and third play simply because I know the game is so successful. And maybe after the first game, I can't quite understand why the game is so fucking successful. So I gotta play 2 or 3 times more to find out what is it that people actually like about that game. Sometimes I come to realize why the game is actually good and why people like it, and that's very important as a designer because in the end, but you need to design games that people will like because otherwise, yeah, that's kind of like it doesn't. It's kind of it wouldn't be very fulfilling if you just make a game that very few people like. It's a bit of a waste of time, maybe I would say. And there are so many good games out there. So if you want to use your time wisely, do something that's substantial and that will actually add something to people's enjoyment.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming and speaking to me today, Juma. That was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you a lot for the interview, Chris.